And good evening. Thanks for joining us on WWL Plus. I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris Franklin. I want to go back in time with our invest. Thankfully, never developed into anything, but it's interesting to watch this long animation of satellite and radar data from when the invest was first declared, not just a regular tropical wave, but one that was going to be of interest, and then thus computer models would start to run on it. And again, that's basically the difference between just an unorganized area of tropical rains and an invest. Not that it's any better organized, it's just of interest, and that's why it's classified that way as an area of investigation, because then computer models can be run specifically on that complex or cluster of storms. This is an animation that goes back to Sunday at noon. Big area thunderstorms, and obviously in the tropical season, this is something that catches your eye. Big area of thunderstorms off the coast of Florida in middle of July. You're going to watch it. And about 1 o'clock or so is when the Hurricane Center declared this an invest. Started to show some signs of kind of a broad circulation taking it over northern Florida. Now I stop it here because at this point, this is about 10 o'clock on Tuesday night, and I remember being up a little bit later in the night, and the area of investigation center was still being classified over land. But I was watching this big complex of storms well removed from that center offshore. And about midnight, 1 a.m., I'd sent out a post saying, the more I watch this, the more I think we're going to see a center kind of redevelop and move away from this one and become more associated with these stronger thunderstorms. Kind of watch here the center of what is classified as the center of our invest, and this little complex of thunderstorms as we go forward. This continues again, storm free, but a general broad circulation on land. Those thunderstorms at this point now, 10 a.m. on Tuesday, are moving toward kind of south of Pensacola. Again, keeping that in motion, there are still thunderstorms kind of going along with what almost looked to be maybe a mid-level low. That is what fired up the storms that began yesterday evening across parts of Mississippi, had all that lightning roll through the metro area. That was kind of associated with not the invest per se, but another mid-level circulation. And again, continuing it on, this eventually moved out toward the west and weakened, and then this, what had been classified as the center, is what moved on land earlier this morning. Now, I'm not saying that that was necessarily the center, but this just shows that this was more of a broad area of low pressure in the lower and mid levels of the atmosphere, and never really did consolidate, and there were complexes of storms everywhere. As long as storms like that stay unorganized, these remain fairly weak, but it does lend itself to becoming a little bit more difficult to forecast. If you follow me on social media and WWL TV, we posted kind of an explanation of why these type of situations are far more of a tricky forecast with regards to impacts compared to an organized tropical storm or hurricane. I kind of go through all the details about why these tend to be a little bit harder to forecast and why there tend to be more dramatic changes in expected impacts. Updating things tonight on our colorized satellite, you kind of look downstream to see if there are any of these brighter cloud tops firing up, indicating maybe more thunderstorms offshore that may be trying to move our way. Now, this is a high resolution satellite. It's actually within the GO-16 satellite. They can focus on individual parts of the northern hemisphere to figure out exactly what is going on within certain types of weather events. And so this is what is called a floater mesoscale loop, and so that's why you don't see any data beyond Georgia or into Texas, because this is focused solely on Invest 93. These type of high resolution satellite images actually give us a picture every single minute. So this is actually in more real time than even a radar images, which is every few minutes. So this is kind of giving us in real time any further development of storms down to the south. And you'll notice not only are there no storms, there are not too many clouds. We have a dry slot here on the southeastern side that hopefully will translate to no real additional rainfall through the rest of this evening. You did see those brighter cloud tops north of Alexandria, so we still have some strong storms going, but as far as anything across southeast Louisiana, that does look to be winding down a bit. Had that earlier, again, still in effect, the flash flood warning, not because there is still ongoing rainfall, but because of the total amounts. 2 to 4 inches of rain estimated between Laplace and Luling, and it just takes time for all of that water to clear out. So that's why the Weather Service now locally is kind of leaving that one up there for a little bit longer, just taking into account the time it takes to clear all the roadways. As far as any additional rains, looks like we've got one little shower to the south of Mandeville that'll be crossing the northern end of the bridge. No lightning associated with that one. No big light shows like we saw last night, and we are dry across the metro area. So in terms of additional rains through the rest of this evening and tonight, wouldn't be surprised to see a few little pop-up showers. Doesn't look like any of those big heavy downpours are firing up offshore, and kind of all generally rotating around the surface low or surface trough that we have. As far as updated totals go, as of now, we've had 0.2 of an inch of rain at Slidell, almost as much at Kenner. Now notice the coloration here is kind of a computer estimate of of rainfall total accumulations. So you do find a few areas of higher amounts, such as in the greens, yellows, and then in particular the reds to those deep purples. So you had over 2.5 inches at Morgan City, but north had a pocket of some very intense rain. Had we seen a pocket of probably almost 5+ inches of rainfall right over the city, this would be a completely different story we'd be discussing. But if we get those pockets over coastal areas, marshier areas, not a big deal. Exactly where those type of cells set up is almost impossible to know for certain. So that's why we talk about the potential of those type of heavy rains and why flood watches are usually issued. These storms that we're anticipating all have the possibility of dropping those heavy amounts of rainfall across the region. We just don't know exactly where they're going to be. So modeling also kind of indicating the same thing. We should be mostly dry as we go throughout the night tonight. Again, a stray little sprinkle here and there wouldn't be out of the question, but I don't think we're going to see any big downpours. And then during the day tomorrow, there could be a few pockets of some heavy rain, but note that does not look to be widespread, so more of the exception than the norm during the day tomorrow. And then we'll also see some rounds of scattered rainfall on Saturday. Now, as of right now, the flood watch is only in effect until tomorrow night. I guess we'll kind of analyze the modeling for Saturday. Ground will be saturated. We'll have probably had a few heavy rainfall rounds on Friday. So I guess kind of depending upon how much rain we see during the day tomorrow and what is still expected on Saturday, there may be a continuation of the flood watch for Saturday. As of right now, Weather Service is saying it'll expire on Friday night, but still, again, expect some downpours during the day on Saturday. Mostly cloudy looking out over downtown. And I also want to kind of finish up with what some have been talking about on social media, and something that we have been discussing, it's not something that's a lie, is that this could try and return and come back at us. Well, not exactly. This is all of that tropical moisture we have been talking about. And again, unorganized, but a lot of moisture. This is eventually going to get drawn northward around a ridge of high pressure. Eventually, we're going to see another center of that ridge kind of build in from the west and kind of clockwise around that high move right back into the Gulf. So the associated moisture will be moving our way. But all of the energy that is triggering the rainfall now, that is actually going to be moving out towards the west. It'll be a new area of energy that comes in off of an east coast trough, as well as a little disturbance moving in from the Atlantic. And it'll be kind of this that is the trigger for rainfall going into next week. So technically speaking, the moisture is the same, the triggering mechanism is not. Whether or not this would be, if it became the need to label this an invest, kind of a question as to whether or not the Hurricane Center would keep this as also Invest 93 or name it as Invest 94. And again, that is just assuming this seems to have signs of organization. As of right now, looking at the models, they're kind of sniffing out something, but that is not a surprise. We're expecting a complex of storms to roll through the Gulf in late July. Of course, the models are going to sniff out something. Whether or not we actually see anything develop is yet to be seen. Thankfully and hopefully, it's just like Invest 93. The models at one point, the euro was screaming at a depression forming. Always downplayed the potential for a storm, but it was screaming at like 95+% chance of a depression forming. And we never saw that because the organization of this complex of storms just was not there. So we'll be watching for another round of rainfall as we go into the latter half of next week, in between the rounds of rain tomorrow and Saturday, and then probably arriving on Thursday this round. We will have hotter and drier weather Sunday, through probably about Wednesday with highs mid to upper 90s, high humidity, and so heat indices above 110. Probably as we get some of this tropical rainfall, we'll be begging for a few cooling showers. That's our update at 8 o'clock. We will have another update at 9 p.m. And then, of course, our complete newscast and a full weather segment in WWL Louisiana News at 10. For now, I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris.